What's up guys, good evening and welcome to Roma Theory. Roma 1, Como 0, massive statement win for Champions League chances, our Champions League hopes, and in general the top 4 race. Very important win and a great win, a very solid, intense win, a proper football lesson from Giampiero Gasperini to Cesc Fabregas. Yeah, I'm very happy about yesterday's performance because we needed a reaction in the league. We were coming from, I don't only look at the results and the negative results against Napoli and Cagliari, but I look at the performances, and both in those two games, the performances were off. There was an anomaly in the intensity shift, in the pressing system. So it was very important to actually check if we'd lost the players or not. And I think we had two great reactions, one in Glasgow on Thursday and one yesterday against Como. As I said, that Celtic game was a game that we played very well, but the opponents that we played against and that we came against were very bad. Yesterday, I think we came against an opponent which, I ain't gonna lie, I was expecting more from them, but they're a solid, they are a solid team. I mean, they have a lot of points. They're 3 points. They're in the European positions. And a team which has a heavy identity, as we said in the match preview, a team that insists on the principles of its manager. Whether that will win them games, whether that will win Fabregas trophies, I don't know, because I do think Como have a lot of limits playing like this. But we exploited their mistakes and the way they play very well, and I think we played a very good game. I mean, if yesterday's game had ended 5-0, we wouldn't have robbed anything. How that first half ended 0-0 was a mystery to me. I mean, we deserved to be 3-0 up after 45 minutes. That first half was clinical. Like, that first half was suicidal for Como, because you didn't allow them to express themselves one bit. Absolutely one bit. You absolutely dominated, but the proper word, I think, is asphyxiated them. In that first half, that you asphyxiated Como with that pressing. In the second half, you scored that goal, great goal. I think in the second half, you're a bit less dominant, but again, I think it's very complicated to keep that rhythm and sustain it for 90 minutes. I mean, it certainly doesn't take 5 months of training sessions under Gasperini to sustain the way he wants to play from minute 1 to minute 90. I think yesterday we sustained it for the majority of the game, for at least a good 70 minutes. In the last 20 minutes, we played with time, we played with nerves. I want to speak about Mancini because, as always, what the media depicts Mancini and what other fans depict Mancini deserves to be talked about. So I definitely want to speak about that at the end of this stream. But in general, a very good win, a very solid win. And now we've got a very big game on Saturday. I think this game sets us up well for that game, for Juventus away. Juventus away is always a bit of a horror show. We need to try and break this curse. And if there's one way that we can end the curse, is by going there confident, and winning yesterday makes you go there in a confident position. Also because the teams that are around you have the Super Cup in Saudi Arabia this week. So technically, psychologically, it also invites you to go there and pull a good performance, because if you win, technically you're back first, because all of Milan, Napoli and Inter don't play in the Serie A next weekend. So yeah, technically we need, I'm expecting good performance. Again, I'm not going to go as far to say that we're going to win in Turin, because you know me, we're going to speak about the game this week, but Turin away, there's something about Turin away that we never win. Like, I cannot remember, I don't think in 20 years of my life, apart from that useless game that we won when Juve were already league titles winners, I don't think in 20 years of my life I remember Roma winning at the Allianz Stadium. So it is always a bit of a pain, but we'll get there. Let's speak about this one first. Okay, First of all, do hit the like button, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll go through all of it today. I want to start off with Como because I think there was something that Como did yesterday. Let's see if you guys paid attention. I mean, in every Como game, because Como does it every time. It's the keyhole for Como in their tactics. What did Como do yesterday that made us win that game? And what did Como do yesterday? What does Como do every time that Gasperini studied perfectly, managed to perfectly counter, and it kind of resulted in us being very dominant in that first half and throughout the entire game. Playing with their goalkeeper. Gasperini said this in the post press conference. Fabregas plays with the goalkeeper too much. And he has kind of hit in a dig at this because he said that playing with the goalkeeper and setting the play with the goalkeeper every time is boring as hell. And so you need to find a way to counter it. And which is why Como were null yesterday. Because the second you play against a team that catches you on a high line and presses you high, the pivot, the goalkeeper being the pivot, doesn't work. And Como yesterday will know. And if Fabregas's identity and principles all lie on give the ball to the goalkeeper sets the play from the low block, and then from there it transitions to Nico Paz. If the goalkeeper doesn't manage to set the play properly because the opponents press you high, the goalkeeper is either forced to, in a state of confusion, kick the ball long, and in that sense, Nico Paz never touched the ball. So it was, again, the reason I say Gasperini schooled Fabregas yesterday is, number one, because he stampeded on his tactics for 90 minutes. But number two is because I think if you're a manager that wants to try and beat Como, you look at what Gasperini did in yesterday's game. Because Como only play with and by their goalkeeper. And that, against a team like Roma, and against a team with Gasperini's intensity, there's nothing, there was no way Como were going to win yesterday's game. There was no way when you face teams that put the pressing system so central to their tactics. Another thing that I think yesterday's game clearly shows to us is that this team needs to be well. If this team is healthy, if this team doesn't have injuries, and if this team ideally doesn't play every 3 days, that in modern football is very complicated if you want to be competitive. But if you add all of these things together, I think if this team is healthy, this team plays well. The problem here is when the second lines come on and when the key players to Gasperini's system are injured. Whenever his main players are injured, I mean, I guess you can say this for any team, of course, but it is very noticeable that when Wesley misses out, for example, when Kone isn't fit, now that Ndika will leave for AFCON, when these pieces don't work and are injured, for instance, the mechanism doesn't work. And when the second lines come on, at times, not always, our tactics don't work. But when everyone is fit, this team is a very competitive team. And I think this start to the season, these first 5 months, in my opinion, are proof that if this team is healthy, this team can compete. Again, people will now all of a sudden bring us back into a league title talk. That's not where we need to focus on being. That's not where we need to put our eyes on. Our eyes need to be on a top 4 race. But I agree. I think if this manager would have been backed this summer, something that he wasn't backed in, apart from Wesley and El Anawi, I think, and I'm scared. I am afraid that that will be a very big regret at the end of the season. I am scared that at the end of the season, we will go, if only this manager was back this summer, God knows what would have happened this year. Because, I mean, on draw effects, there isn't a very dominant team in the league. Milan, Napoli, and Inter are the best. I'm not going to be a puppet going, when we lose, we're not in a league title race. When we win, we're back in it. No. When we win, when we lose, Inter, Milan, and Napoli are better than you. But I must say that it isn't a dominant league. There isn't a team that is dominating the league. I mean, the numbers show it. Two things show it. Number one, the fact that 4 teams are separated by 3 points, and number two, the fact that at the end of every game week there's a new leader in the title race. So I'm scared that this perception at the end of the season can turn into a reality, into a regret, because at the end of the season, if we're in this position, let's say we get fourth, but Inter get first and win the league, 5 points more than us. Everyone's so jumbled up together. Then the regret at the end of the season will go, if only you would have backed this manager this summer, then maybe God knows what would have happened. Because this team is a competitive team. Again, I still think there are elements that we struggle in big games, absolutely. But we're competitive. It's not like we play a big game and we lose 4-0. You know, that would give us a bigger reality bite. You're not winning big games, but the big games that you've played have all been different games, but have all been very close games. Against Milan, I think you didn't deserve to lose. I'll say it until the day I die. Against Napoli, you were drained from that Midtjylland game, and I would argue that if you hadn't played that Midtjylland game, you would have probably grabbed something from that game. Against Inter, the approach was bad, but in the second half you dominated them. These things show to you that they're better than you, but with a few more tools, you can properly have a dig at them. But, okay, let's go back to the game, because this isn't a league title. I don't want to kind of diverge. I want to start off with Wesley, because I have been saying this ever since game week 5, game week 6 came on. Wesley is not the best player that we have, but Wesley is by far one of the most, if not arguably the most important player to Gasperini. And I am now completely understanding why Gasperini wanted this guy at Atalanta for ages and was his number one request this summer. I completely understand it. Because this man has got 7 lungs in him. This guy runs like he's never seen a horizon before. Like, it's crazy. And in teams that exchange, in an ideal formation, which Gasperini wants to work in future with other transfer sessions, is a team that is very good at exchanging and a team which is aerobically perfect to resist the pressing. Wesley is that. And I will say it until the day I die. Wesley is the only player in this team that adds tempo, that adds an element of speed. It's not a surprise that when Wesley doesn't play or doesn't start, we don't transition the ball fast. We're so slow. Because this guy runs, something that a lot of the players that we have don't do. That doesn't mean that they're not good. But I think for the characteristics that our manager wants, you need fast players, which is why a left winger had to be a priority this summer. So Wesley, I'm not just looking at that goal. I'm looking at what he adds to a game, what he adds to this formation, and what he adds to this system. And I think it's very fair to say that he is becoming, if not has become already, one of the most important players. One of the most important players to this manager, because there's such a there is an apocalyptical difference when we play with Wesley or without Wesley. Against Cagliari, Wesley didn't play, we lost. Against Napoli, Wesley didn't play, we lost. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, against Inter, Wesley didn't play and we lost. but I might be wrong on that one. But Napoli and Cagliari for sure. And arguably, the Napoli and Cagliari game were two of the worst performances of the season. But I think everyone was good yesterday. I think everyone was good yesterday. Sule was very good. Sule was very good. I always feel like in these games, you expect that goal from him, that he can distribute away from home. But yesterday, for the first time in a long while, I saw a decisive Sule at home. A player that doesn't score, but a player that probably without him you wouldn't have won yesterday's game. Assist to Wesley. A lot of chances created. So very well done to Sule. Ferguson, I think, played well. Good point of reference yesterday. Didn't score, but the movements were fluid. He was less robotic, I think. Yeah, but again, I struggled to find somebody who played bad yesterday. I want to just draw back to our defense line, because our defense line played great yesterday. And I think our best defender yesterday was Mario Hermoso. And he's one of those players that has completely changed my opinion from this to this. We were demanding the Atletico Madrid Hermoso to come back and play for us because we never got that Hermoso, let's be real. Last year he was terrible. This year, I see a completely different player when it comes to that mentality aspect. A much more hungrier player. A much more direct player. And you know something that shouldn't be underlooked? That if you ask rival fans, they will absolutely hate, but it's something that you shouldn't underlook. One of the reasons why we're very good defensively and why we've got the best defense in Europe in the top 5 leagues is of course because of Svilar, of course because our defense is a good defense, but we have a characteristic of our defenders, is that 2 of our 3 centre backs are pure shithousery masters. And this is the point that I want to kind of make, because we've reached this parenthesis and it's fair to open it. We live in a generation of football which is a social media generation of football. Let's be real. Football nowadays is social media. Football nowadays is social media. I mean, under all its aspects, not just someone goes to the stadium and makes a video out of it. That can be social media, but also between players, the interaction between fans. I'm a Lazio fan. I don't like Mancini. I start tweeting all the worst possible things about him on Twitter. Or I don't like Guendouzi. Post-game, I mock him. Football nowadays is social. There is a massive element of social media in football. And I think that more and more often, less and less nowadays, I'm seeing shithousery in football. And I'm like, long life to players that keep it alive. Again, take this with all the bias possible because Mancini is my player. I've said this already. If I'm a rival fan, I would want to punch Mancini. And that's the truth. But that's exactly where the game needs to be. People victimize Mancini. Hermoso, I'm going to put in the parenthesis just to open up, because Hermoso can be a dickhead as well. But let's focus on Mancini here. Every time Roma plays a game, the only thing that I read on articles is about Mancini. Only. There is an obsession about that man in this country amongst the journalists, rival fans. There is an obsession around Gianluca Mancini. The only thing journalists have the decency to write about after one of our games is Mancini's behavior. So I'm like, grow up. I am not saying that you need to like him, because I've said this already and I'll say it again. If you're against us, it's completely understandable to hate him. He's very frustrating if you don't have him on your team. Very frustrating. As a Roma fan, I see Mancini as a very passionate player, and I love shithousery in football. I think football isn't a soft game. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called football. It wouldn't be a physical game. I think in the whole packet of football comes shithousery, mind games, provocative behaviors. That's part of football, whether you like it or not. I think it's part of football. So, but the point that I want to make here is, I don't. You know how many players I hate that behave similar to Mancini? Lazio players, Inter players, Milan players, Juventus players, in both this generation and in past generations. I can name you a few. Guendouzi now, Lulic at Lazio, Lichtsteiner at Juventus. Do you remember that twat? That twat deserved to get slapped. But I don't feel like we make a fuss about it. Like, he can be annoying in a game and you tweet something about him. After 24 hours, end of the game, end of story. With Mancini, it's proper obsession. And I think that these false moralisms are absolutely disgusting. Because if Mancini was your player, you would do the exact same thing as I would do and as we would do. And that's part of the game. I like a player that you like. I hate a player that plays in your team. You hate a player that plays for my team. And that's football. And I think it's becoming very, very soft. I'm not saying that everything Mancini does is right, because Mancini does have his rage issues. But the obsession that is around that man, I think, is something that I want to speak about, because every time a game ends, they only speak about him. They only speak about him. What else? I mean, Dybala on the bench again. I'm not surprised, frankly speaking. I predicted this in the predicted 11. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I don't think people should be surprised. Because football is a very easy game. Whoever deserves to start, starts. Whoever doesn't deserve to start, starts on the bench. Then if he has a chance, he comes on. Otherwise, if the game changes and dynamics of the game develop in a certain way, then he doesn't play. I'm not that concerned, because you know what I think about Dybala. I don't want to restart again. But one thing that I will say is that I think for the first season in a while, we're a team that can play football without Paulo Dybala. Something that ever since I would say Ranieri took over was something impossible to our eyes. Like, before Ranieri took over, we had this perception, and it was the truth, that we were very bad without Dybala. And that our team could have only won games with Paulo Dybala on the pitch. I think times have changed. I think Father Time is acting. I think we're no longer, which is a good thing, we're no longer Dybala dependent. And I think as of now, he shouldn't start, because I think Sule deserves it more. But we'll see if he starts against. I mean, I don't mind Dybala starting. You know, I don't want to sound as if this is a personal affair. I just feel like football is a very easy game. Whoever deserves to start, starts. And Sule starts ahead of Dybala in the hierarchies for Gasperini as of today. So that's very easy. Okay, let's read a few comments. What do you think of Beto from Everton? Oh yeah, there was like the Dovbyk Beto swap. Doesn't really get me that excited, ain't gonna lie. Ferguson just doesn't have it yet. He reads the game too slow and his first touch is not great. I think he played good yesterday though. We've definitely seen way worse. Wrench! I completely forgot about Wrench. Wrench is such a good player. Wrench Rover is such a good player. He's another player, not to the level of Wesley, but he's another player that runs like hell. I really like him. You know what? The thing, I think the perfect way to describe Wrench is that he has there is nothing in which he excels, right? I don't think he has something that makes you go, wow, he's the only one who can do this. I don't think he's got certain things that he excels in, but he is solid on every point of view. And that's something that is very complicated to find in players. Concentration, attitude, willingness, defensive capabilities, offensive threat, ability to transition. He doesn't excel in any of these, but he's very solid at all of them. And I think that is what is making him a very good player and a very useful player. Because this Wrench, the Wrench that played against Celtic, the Wrench that played yesterday, should start in this team. Absolutely. Does it say 2-0 on the thumbnail? I apologize. Is Ndika going to play against Juve? No. Ndika's out. Ndika's gone. Ndika's gone and we'll be back. We'll be back for the... I mean, unless he gets eliminated first, earlier. He'll be back for the Torino game, which is in a while. It's in more than a month. So we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle without Ndika. Yesterday he was, again, dominant. I'm very curious to see how Gasperini will move defensively without Ndika. I reckon Cilic drops down in the back three, Mancini plays central, and Hermoso plays. But I can also see Cristante drop down. Maybe Ghilardi and Ziolkowski get more game time. I'm not sure. It depends on the games, of course. But it's gonna be a very, very heavy miss. I'm gonna jinx Morocco and Ivory Coast as much as I can. As much as I can. Don't allow me to do it, Morocco and Ivory Coast fans. I really have nothing against you, but we need them. We need them. So I hope you get eliminated early. But I highly doubt it, because if somebody picks me and says who are the two strongest team in Africa, I would probably go Morocco and Ivory Coast. Maybe Senegal, but it's definitely them three. Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Morocco. I mean, at least they're the national teams with the most players, with the most nameable players. Morocco's clearly the favourite. Do you think we'll go top four at the back against Juve? No. No. Top four at the back is not possible. Gasperini has never switched from a back three. Never. And Gasperini is an experienced manager, so he will not change anything formation-wise. He will only adapt players in it. We will never play with a back four with Mancini, with Gasperini. It will always be a back three, because this is his formation, and this is how his formation at Atalanta, at Genoa, at Palermo, and now at Roma has worked and has brought him results. So he will never switch formation. Mancho might be a hothead, but Bastoni does the same and gets no heat. Salamakers is a punch face, gets no heat. I agree. I agree. Look, again, I think honesty is important. I'm going to say it again. If I have Mancini against me, I would probably chuck him a beer at the stadium. Mancini is frustrating as a non-Roma point of view. I completely understand people who don't like him. Okay, I understand, and I'm not criticizing that, because I'm not saying that I'm not trying to convince people that Mancini is likable. Mancini isn't likable if you've got him against you. But the one thing that I'm saying is that he's not the only one. And that these false moralisms that he gets are not fair, because there are so many players that behave like him but get half the media attention and the fan hating. If I hate somebody, I hate him for that game, and then that's it. After 24 hours, it's gone. With Mancini, it's a constant obsession. I think Wesley and Sule on the same side, we play better and look more dangerous. That's a very good point, because, of course, the defenses need to face both of them, and one overlaps the other one. They're both fast players, so yeah, I agree. Mancini is very much like Materazzi, but a lower level still. I think he has the classic Italian job kind of a player, no matter what people say. I just love the guy. Roma and Inter are the only teams to have troubled and suffocated Como the most. Not surprising since these are two teams who press the most. Absolutely. Watching Juve Roma during Jose versus Allegri made me rethink if I liked football or not. I was at the stadium with my dad in Turin for that game. It was the most boring game I think I've ever seen. But Allegri against Jose would have never promised popcorn. But yeah, look, we're approaching the end of the year, guys. We are approaching the end of the solar year. We're approaching the end of the first half of this season. We have got Juventus on Saturday. We have got Daniele De Rossi's return home, the 29th of December. And then we've got Bergamo. So we've got De Rossi's return to Rome and then Gasperini's return to Bergamo, which is a complicated game. And then to conclude the first round, we have Lecce away, which is always a bit of a pain, even though Lecce are quite dead. No, not dead. I think I've seen worse seasons from Lecce, but they're a team that struggles to score. So, yeah, we've got 4 games left. A win on Saturday would put us in a very good position. But, if buts and maybes, we'll speak about the Juventus game in a few days. And yeah, I cannot believe we're approaching the end of the year. We started off with Claudio. We're ending with Gasp, who is bringing us in a very nice position. Hopefully it will continue like this. I will catch you tomorrow. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this match reaction. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. 100 likes on this video would be great. Make sure to check the stadium vlog. It is now out. It was out yesterday. And Forza Roma sempre. Great game yesterday. Heads on Turin on Saturday. Simo out.